The war had been raging for centuries in the star system of Kalara. Entire worlds were burning. Alien armies clashed with thunderous explosions and cries of pain. Humans were new to this part of the galaxy, small in number but known for their courage. Among them was Marcus, a young warrior with sharp eyes and a steady heart. He had trained his whole life to fight, to survive, and to protect. He never expected to face something that would change his life forever. The battlefield of Elora Prime was a nightmare. Smoke covered the red sky. Fires burned like rivers of molten gold across the plains. Marcus and his squad were pinned down by shadow-winged alien raiders, creatures fast and deadly, with weapons that could tear through armor like paper. Explosions shook the ground beneath them, throwing men to the dust. Yet Marcus did not falter. He fought with the strength of every human who had ever survived impossible odds. Amidst the chaos, he saw her, an alien princess. She was unlike anything he had ever seen. Her skin shimmered like silver under the dying sun, and her eyes were deep pools of violet filled with fear and pain. Her ship had crashed nearby, and she was trapped under twisted metal, blood seeping into the red sand. Marcus's heart caught. Something about her made him pause, not as an enemy, not as a stranger, but as a life that deserved to survive. The medics shouted for him to stay back. "It's too dangerous," they cried, but Marcus ignored them. The explosions roared and alien soldiers approached, but he only thought about her. She was dying. He could feel it. Her life was slipping away with each shallow breath. Her species, the medic said, could not survive without a rare transfusion. And the only compatible donor in the vicinity? A human. Him. Marcus knelt beside her, reaching out through the smoke and fire. Her eyes widened when she looked at him, panic and disbelief flashing across her face. You would help me?" she whispered, her voice faint and trembling. Marcus gave her a steady, determined look. "I may be human," he said, "but some lives are worth more than fear or rules." With the medic's help, Marcus prepared a transfusion. He made a small cut in his arm, letting his blood flow into the alien princess. The moment was terrifying and beautiful at the same time. He felt weakness crawl through his body, dizziness spinning around him, yet he refused to stop. Each drop of his blood was a promise. She would live. Minutes passed like hours. He held her hand, whispered words of comfort, and watched her chest rise and fall. Slowly, as if the universe itself had bent in their favor, her breathing steadied. The color returned to her silver skin, and her eyes, still wide with wonder, focused on him. "You saved me," she said again, her voice stronger this time. Marcus smiled, tired and pale, yet filled with an unfamiliar warmth. "No one deserves to die if I can help it," he replied softly. In that moment, something shifted. It was more than gratitude in her gaze, it was trust, awe, and a connection neither of them fully understood yet. Around them, the battlefield raged. But in that small corner of destruction, there was a strange calm. A human warrior had given his life force to an alien princess, and somehow, it felt as though the stars themselves had paused to watch. Marcus realized that courage was not just about fighting. Sometimes it was about giving a part of yourself to save another. And for Lizra, the princess, that single act of bravery had kept her alive. But neither of them knew that this moment would change the fate of not just their lives, but the entire galaxy. Something powerful had begun. A bond forged in blood, in courage, and in hope. A bond that would make the impossible possible. The battlefield had quieted, leaving only smoke and the distant echoes of explosions. Marcus carried Lysera carefully to a makeshift healing chamber near the wreckage of her ship. Alien medics and scientists rushed to her side, murmuring in their strange melodic language. They were surprised and wary, but Marcus ignored their whispers. She was alive. That was all that mattered. Lysera's body trembled as she lay on the soft, glowing bed prepared for her. Marcus sat beside her, holding her hand gently. "You'll be okay," he said, though he wasn't entirely sure if he was right. He had given so much of his own strength to save her. Fatigue gnawed at him, but he pushed it aside. This was bigger than him. This was life. The alien healers began their work, their hands glowing with energy that could mend flesh and slow the flow of blood. Marcus watched as Lysera's breathing became steadier, the tremors in her body easing little by little. But he noticed something strange. Every time her chest rose or fell with effort, he felt it too. An echo in his own body, a sharp tug of empathy and awareness. He blinked in confusion. Was it possible? Could the blood bond him to her in ways more than physical? Lysera opened her eyes slowly, violet irises scanning the chamber. When they rested on Marcus, a soft gasp escaped her lips. "You stayed with me," she whispered, "even when you could have collapsed." He smiled, though it was weary. "You mattered," he replied simply. "More than my rules, more than my life. You mattered." Her gaze softened, and for the first time she allowed herself a faint smile. She had seen warriors before, fierce and unyielding, but there was something in Marcus's presence that made her heart calm. He was human, fragile in many ways, yet he carried a strength that transcended size and species. His courage had saved her, and now she realized it might change the fate of her people. As the hours passed, Marcus could not leave her side. He helped her drink small amounts of nutrient fluids, adjusted her position, and spoke softly to calm her fears. Every gesture was careful and tender, like a promise he could not break. Slowly she began to respond, her voice growing stronger, her movements more certain. Each tiny improvement felt monumental. The bond between them grew in ways neither fully understood. When Lysera whispered in fear or pain, Marcus felt it in his chest, a sharp pang that made him flinch. He reached out instinctively to touch her, grounding them both. She in turn could sense his fatigue and concern, her fingers tightening around his hand in reassurance. Their hearts seemed to beat in rhythm, a silent connection that felt as old as the stars themselves. Yet their peace was fragile. Outside the chamber, the war still raged. Alien factions that had not yet learned of Marcus's act of bravery continued to fight, some even viewing him as a threat. Marcus knew they could not stay here forever. He would have to fight again, defend Lysera and protect the bond they had forged. But for now he allowed himself a moment of quiet, a moment to be human, to care and to hope. Lysera watched him, awestruck. "I don't know how to thank you," she said, her voice trembling with emotion. Marcus shook his head. "You don't need to. Just survive. That's enough." She nodded, understanding the depth of his words. He had given her life, and in return she had a chance to fulfill her destiny, one that might unite her people and stop endless bloodshed. As night fell over the battlefield, the chamber glowed softly. Outside the fire still burned, but inside there was warmth, there was trust, and there was hope. A human had reached across the stars and saved an alien princess, and in that act, something extraordinary had begun, a bond that could not be broken, a force that could change the galaxy forever. Marcus looked at her sleeping form, feeling a surge of determination. "No matter what comes," he whispered to himself, "I will protect her. I will fight. I will not fail." And in that quiet promise, the seeds of legend were planted, destined to grow into a story that would echo across worlds. The calm of the healing chamber could not last. Word of Marcus's bravery had spread like wildfire. Whispers ran through the alien factions. Humans had interfered in Kalara's war, and not just any human, but one who had saved the royal bloodline. Some saw him as a hero. Others saw him as a threat. Some even feared him. Marcus knew it was only a matter of time before the enemies struck again. The bond between him and Lysera, forged in blood and courage, was not invisible. They could sense it. This connection made them stronger, faster, sharper. But it also made them a target. Marcus understood that. He had seen fear and hatred in the eyes of the raiders. They would come, and they would come hard. Lysera, recovering slowly but steadily, could sense the tension in Marcus. "Are they coming for us?" she asked one morning, her voice soft but tinged with worry. Marcus shook his head. "I don't know. But if they do, we will be ready. Together." She looked at him with a mixture of trust and admiration, and for a moment the weight of the galaxy seemed lighter. Days passed, and Marcus trained alongside Lysera's elite guards. His human instincts were sharp, his reflexes fast, but now there was something more. He could feel Lysera's presence in a way that made him anticipate danger, almost as if he could sense the attacks before they happened. She too could feel his fatigue and his determination drawing courage from it. Their bond was no longer just emotional, it was physical, almost instinctive. One night, as the twin moons rose high above the red plains, alarms blared across the city. Shadow-winged raiders had found them. Marcus and Lysera were separated from the main force, cut off by a wave of enemy soldiers. Panic threatened to rise in the princess. But Marcus's calm, steady presence reassured her. "Stay close to me," he said, voice low and firm. "We can get through this." They ran through alien forests, trees glowing faintly under the moonlight. Marcus felt the tug of Lysera's presence guiding him, alerting him to hidden traps and approaching enemies. It was uncanny, almost supernatural. He realized the transfusion had done more than save her life. It had created a bond that enhanced their abilities. Humans were strong, yes, but together with Lysera, they were something more, something no enemy had ever faced. The raiders were relentless, surrounding them, their weapons flashing deadly energy. Lysera's guards fought fiercely, but Marcus pushed through, cutting paths, shielding her when he could. Every time she stumbled or gasped in pain, he felt it in his chest and surged with renewed strength. Their bond was a lifeline, a tether between two species that should never have met, but had, and now could not be separated. Finally, they reached a cliff overlooking the battlefield. Trapped and outnumbered, it seemed impossible to escape. Lysera looked at Marcus, fear and determination shining in her eyes. "We have to fight," she said, her voice trembling but strong. Marcus nodded. "Together," he replied. And in that moment, the bond between them ignited, a spark of courage and unity that neither had felt before. They fought side by side, Marcus with human ferocity, Lysera with alien precision and newfound strength. Enemy after enemy fell, unable to comprehend the power of their combined will. Each strike they made seemed synchronized, as if their thoughts were one. Marcus realized then that the transfusion had done more than save a life. It had created a connection that could change the course of battles, maybe even the war itself. When the raiders finally retreated, Marcus and Lysera stood together, breathing heavily, eyes locked. "We are stronger together," Marcus said softly. Lysera nodded, her heart swelling with gratitude and something deeper, something that words could not yet capture. They had survived, but the war was far from over. And deep down, Marcus knew their bond would be tested again, in ways they could not imagine. But for now, in the quiet after the storm, they had each other, and sometimes that was enough to face the impossible. After the battle, Marcus and Lysera returned to the royal chambers. The city was quiet now, but the tension lingered like a heavy fog. The bond between them had grown stronger in combat, but neither fully understood its reach. Marcus could feel her presence constantly, as if a part of her was now inside him, and Lysera could sense his heartbeat in a way that made her feel safer, stronger. One evening, as they rested under the glow of twin moons, Lysera spoke softly. "Marcus, there's something I must tell you." Her violet eyes reflected both fear and hope. Marcus leaned closer. "Anything. Tell me." She took a deep breath, as if gathering courage from the night air. "Our species has a secret," she said, "a hidden power that can awaken in rare circumstances. But it only responds to human blood." Marcus's eyes widened. "Human blood?" he repeated, trying to understand. Lysera nodded. "When you gave me your blood, it didn't just save me. It awakened something. A force that has been dormant for centuries. Something that could unite my people and give them the strength to end this war." Marcus felt a mix of awe and fear. He had not asked for this. He had only acted to save her life. Yet now he realized that his simple act of courage had created a bridge between two worlds, a connection that could change history. "Are you saying I'm part of this power?" he asked carefully. Lysera reached out, her hand resting on his arm. "Yes, in ways neither of us can fully explain yet. But together, we can do what no one else could." That revelation weighed on him. Humans were few in this galaxy, and yet their blood held the key to an alien power strong enough to shift the course of a war. Marcus felt a sense of responsibility he had never known. He could not fail. If he did, Lysera, her people, and countless lives would be lost. But alongside that fear was a spark of determination. He had survived impossible battles before, and now he would survive this challenge too. Lysera smiled faintly, sensing the conflict in his mind. "Marcus, I know this is overwhelming, but I trust you. I believe in you." Her voice was steady, though her heart still carried fear. Marcus looked at her, at the trust shining in her eyes, and felt a warmth spread through him. "Then we'll do it together," he said. "Whatever comes, we face it as one." Over the next few days, Lysera guided Marcus through the ways her power worked. It was strange and beautiful. He could sense shifts in her energy, small tremors of force that responded to his own presence. When she concentrated, their bond created a protective aura, subtle but strong, shielding them from danger in ways they could barely explain. Even the city guards noticed the change. Humans were brave, but no one had ever seen a human and an alien princess move with such synchronicity, as if their souls were connected. Yet, even with this revelation, danger loomed. Factions that opposed the royal family would not rest. They would see Marcus not just as a human warrior, but as a key to the princess's power, a threat that had to be eliminated. The city was safe for now, but the war was far from over. Marcus and Lysera knew that they had only begun to tap into the potential of their bond. That night, as Marcus watched her sleep, he felt the weight of what had happened. He had given his blood to save a life, and in return, he had become part of something much larger than himself. A force capable of uniting a people, ending a war and creating hope where there was only fear. Lysera stirred, sensing his presence. Her eyes opened and she looked at him with gratitude and something deeper, trust, reliance, and perhaps the faintest spark of love. "We can do this," she whispered. Marcus nodded, his heart steady. "Yes, together, we can change everything." And in that quiet moment, under the glow of the twin moons, a new chapter began. One where human courage and alien strength were no longer separate but united. One where the impossible seemed possible. The universe was watching, and Marcus and Lysera were ready to show it what true courage could achieve. The city of Lysera's people was alive with tension. Word had spread of Marcus's bond with the princess, and enemy forces were gathering on the horizon. Smoke rose from distant villages, and the sound of marching armies echoed like distant thunder. The air itself seemed to shiver with the anticipation of war. Marcus and Lysera stood side by side atop the palace walls, looking out over the battlefield. "This is it," Marcus said quietly, his hand brushing against hers. Lysera nodded, her violet eyes calm but filled with determination. "We fight not just for ourselves," she said. "We fight for everyone who believes in peace." Marcus tightened his grip on his weapon, feeling a surge of purpose. He had faced death countless times before, but this fight was different. It was not just about survival. It was about hope, about changing the fate of an entire people. As the enemy forces approached, Marcus felt the strange energy that had been awakened by his blood. It pulsed through him, a rhythm synchronized with Lysera's own heartbeat. He could sense the movements of the attackers before they made them, feel the danger before it reached him. Lysera, too, seemed stronger, more confident. Her powers had awakened fully now, and with Marcus beside her, their bond became a force that radiated across the battlefield. The first wave of enemies struck. Shadow-winged raiders descended like dark meteors, their weapons flashing deadly light. Lysera raised her hands and a brilliant shield of energy formed around them, bending the attacks harmlessly aside. Marcus moved with unmatched precision, cutting through enemy lines with human skill amplified by the alien energy coursing through him. Together they were unstoppable. Every strike, every movement was synchronized. Marcus could feel Lysera's intent, anticipate her actions, and act before danger even appeared. It was as if they were two halves of a single warrior, a unity that no enemy had ever seen. Soldiers fell back in awe and fear, whispering about the human and the princess who fought as one. Even with their strength, the battle was grueling. Explosions shook the ground and cries of pain filled the air. Marcus saw Lysera struggle as she channeled her energy to protect the city. Without hesitation, he moved to shield her, taking blows meant for her, drawing strength from their bond. The princess's eyes met his, and in that brief moment they shared a silent promise. They would survive no matter the cost. Hours passed like minutes. The enemy, relentless and numerous, pressed forward, but Marcus and Lysera's combined power began to turn the tide. Humans were clever and adaptable, and Lysera's species possessed energy unlike anything he had seen. Together, their strategies created chaos for the attackers. They moved with such precision and unity that the enemy could not predict their actions, could not find an opening. Finally, as the sun began to rise, casting golden light over the battlefield, the enemy forces began to retreat. Their lines broke, their morale shattered. Marcus and Lysera stood together, exhausted but victorious. The bond between them stronger than ever. Soldiers of both sides watched in awe, realizing that they had witnessed something extraordinary. a human, and an alien princess, fighting not for power but for life, hope, and unity. Lysera looked at Marcus, gratitude and admiration shining in her eyes. "We did it," she whispered. Marcus shook his head, smiling through the exhaustion. "No, you did it. I just stood beside you." But in his heart he knew it was both of them, together, who had made the impossible possible. As the city celebrated, Marcus felt a quiet pride. He had not just saved a life before, he had helped save a people. And in that battle he realized the truth he had always believed. Humans were small, fragile and few, but their courage, their will, and their heart could change the course of the universe. That day, legends were born, not of kings or warriors alone, but of the human who gave his blood and the alien princess who fought by his side. Together they had shown that even in the darkest hour, unity and courage could light the path to victory. The battlefield was silent now, except for the distant cries of those who had survived. Smoke curled into the sky, but the city itself stood intact, its walls scarred but unbroken. Marcus walked beside Lysera through the streets, the weight of the day pressing on both of them. Though the enemy had retreated, victory felt bittersweet. Many had fallen, and the cost of survival was written in every scar, every tear, every quiet sob. Lysera paused by the fountain at the city's center. Water reflected the soft morning light, shimmering like liquid stars. She turned to Marcus, her violet eyes deep with emotion. "So many lives lost, and yet we survived," she whispered. Marcus nodded, placing a hand gently on her shoulder. "We survived because we didn't fight alone, because we trusted each other." His voice was soft but filled with conviction. That trust, it's stronger than any weapon. The people began to emerge from their shelters, hesitant at first, then with hope in their steps. Citizens whispered about the human warrior who had given his blood to save their princess, about the unity and courage he had shown in battle. For generations they had viewed humans as outsiders, strange, fragile, insignificant. But now their perspective had changed. They saw humanity's true strength, heart, determination, and the courage to act when it mattered most. Lysera walked among her people, but her eyes always returned to Marcus. She could feel the bond still pulsing between them, quiet but steady, a lifeline that had carried them through the battle. "Marcus," she said, touching his arm gently, "without you, I don't know if I could have stood. You saved more than me. You saved us all." Marcus shook his head, humbled. "No, you inspired me to fight. You showed me that courage is more than strength, it's about hope. You gave me that." Even as the city celebrated, Marcus felt the lingering fatigue of the battle. His muscles ached, his body still weak from the blood he had given weeks ago. But none of that mattered. Seeing Lysera alive, seeing the people alive, it was worth every ache, every risk. The bond between them had changed both of them. Humans were resilient, yes, but he had discovered a new depth in himself. A strength born from connection, from caring, from fighting for something greater than survival. Later, in the quiet of the palace, Lysera and Marcus stood on the balcony overlooking the city. The sun rose higher now, bathing everything in golden light. "Marcus," Lysera said softly, leaning slightly against him, "do you realize what you've done? Not just for me, but for everyone here. For the future?" He glanced at her, eyes meeting hers with quiet determination. "Yes, and I know the fight isn't over, but I also know we can face it together. We always will." That night the city held a celebration unlike any before. Citizens cheered not just for victory, but for the unity Marcus had brought. For the first time, humans were not seen as outsiders. They were heroes, allies, friends. Children pointed at Marcus and Lysera, wide-eyed, dreaming of courage and hope. Parents whispered stories to their families, tales of bravery that would last generations. Marcus, once just a warrior among many, had become a symbol. As the festivities continued, Marcus and Lysera found a quiet moment. The bond between them pulsed softly, a reminder of the blood and trust that had connected them. Lysera placed her hand over his, feeling the rhythm of life that had saved hers. "You and I," she said, her voice barely a whisper. "We are no longer separate. What happened to us? It's part of who we are now." Marcus nodded, a soft smile on his face. "And together nothing can break us." In that moment, under the starlit sky of Kalara, Marcus realized the truth he had always known but now understood fully. Courage is not measured by weapons or armies, but by the heart that beats in defiance of fear. And hope? Hope is strongest when shared. They had survived the war, yes. But more than that, they had created a new legacy. A bond that would inspire generations across the galaxy. A reminder that even in the darkest times, humanity could shine brighter than any star. The war was over, but its echoes lingered. Cities rebuilt slowly, soldiers returned home, and families mourned those who had fallen. Yet amid the ruins there was hope. A fragile, glowing hope that promised a future unlike any Kalara had ever known. Marcus and Lysera walked side by side through the recovering city, their bond deeper than ever, unspoken but unbreakable. Lysera looked at Marcus with gratitude and awe. "You changed everything," she said softly. "Not just the war, but the way my people see humans." Marcus shook his head with a tired smile. "I didn't do this alone. You fought, you endured, and your courage. It inspired me. Together we made this possible." Her violet eyes shimmered in the morning light. "I never imagined someone like you could exist," she whispered. Marcus laughed softly, a sound full of relief and humility. "Humans are small maybe, fragile, but when we choose to act, when we care enough to fight for someone else, we can be stronger than anyone imagines." The city celebrated their survival and victory, but more than that, they celebrated unity. Humans, once strangers, were no longer outsiders, they were heroes, symbols of hope, living proof that courage and compassion could cross the vastest distances and the deepest divides. Children ran through the streets shouting stories of the human warrior and the alien princess, imagining themselves one day fighting not for power but for life, love, and hope. Marcus and Lysera often spent quiet moments together, watching the sunset or walking among their people. Their bond pulsed gently, a reminder of the blood shared, of courage given freely, and of trust forged in the fires of battle. It was no longer just a connection, it was a legacy. They were living proof that one act of bravery could ripple across the galaxy, changing everything it touched. One evening, Lysera spoke of the future. "Marcus, I want to create a world where our people never have to fight like this again, where courage is not just about survival, but about building, healing, and uniting." Marcus placed his hand over hers, feeling the warmth and strength of her resolve. "Then we will do it, together. Nothing can stop us when we stand as one." The bond between them had changed them both. Marcus felt a new kind of strength, not the strength of muscle or weapon, but the strength of connection, of shared purpose. Lysera too had grown more than she could have imagined, learning to trust fully in someone from a different world, someone whose heart matched the courage of her own people. Years passed and their story became legend. Humans and aliens alike told tales of the human who had given his blood to save a princess, and the princess who had fought beside him. Songs, paintings, and stories filled the halls of Kalara. Leaders remembered the unity Marcus and Lysera had created, and warriors aspired to their courage. Their bond had become a symbol, proof that even in the darkest hours hope could rise, and even the smallest act of bravery could echo across the stars. Marcus and Lysera stood once more on the balcony overlooking the city. The sun rose, golden and bright, illuminating streets that were no longer filled with fear but with life, laughter, and possibility. Lysera leaned into him, whispering, "We did this. Together." Marcus smiled, gazing at the horizon. "Yes, together, and this is just the beginning." In that moment, the universe seemed to pause, as if acknowledging what they had achieved. A human had given his blood to save an alien princess. A bond had been forged that no enemy could sever. A people had been united. And in the quiet strength of that connection, a new era was born, one where courage, compassion, and humanity could shine brighter than any star. Marcus realized then what he had always known deep inside. Humans were small, but their hearts were immense. When they chose to act, to care, and to fight for others, they could change the course of worlds. Lysera squeezed his hand, and together they looked to the future, knowing that whatever challenges came next, they would face them side by side. And so, their legend lived on, not just as a story of war, but as a story of hope, unity, and the undeniable strength of the human spirit. The galaxy would never forget the human warrior who gave his blood to an alien princess, and the love and courage that changed everything.